Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to give you that shortcut to being well-informed. We take a huge stack of sources and, well, we boil them down to the essential, actionable truths.
And today, we're getting into the foundational structures of achievement. We've been looking at the key habits from the book summary of 100 Things Successful People Do by Nigel Cumberland.
Yeah, and this isn't a deep dive about, getting famous or making a fortune.
Not at all. The sources are focused on something more like a universal operating system. The habits themselves, the things that enable success, however you happen to define it.
Exactly. So whether you're chasing a new career path or maybe trying to conquer a health goal or just tackling a big personal project, these are the blueprints.
They're the mental and behavioral blueprints that really accelerate your progress.
Absolutely. The whole mission here is to move past this idea that success is just, luck or some kind of innate talent.
It's an architectural process.
It is. And if you're listening, you probably already know the basics, so we want to go deeper into the why and the how. Okay, let's unpack this. And we have to start where all achievement really begins.
The internal compass.
The internal compass. The most foundational habit is prioritizing your own desires, following your dreams, even when everyone is telling you to be more practical.
And that's such a crucial starting point. It's fascinating because, conventional wisdom always steers us toward security, stability,
The
safe path. But the source material highlights that security often just leads to this temporary happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling, it very quickly devolves into just lethargy.
Right.
Genuine, lasting motivation comes from pursuing your true and often your most inconvenient desire.
Temporary happiness versus enduring fulfillment. I mean, that's a huge distinction.
It is.
Your dream isn't just some pleasant thought. It's your actual source of motivation. It's the engine that gives you the energy you need to push through obstacles.
It forces you to take actions you just wouldn't take if you were settling.
Exactly.
I mean, think about the case studies we saw, like the implied story of Steve Jobs.
If he had just stuck to that standard college to corporate path, just driven by a fear of what people would think, we just wouldn't have the technologies that define our lives today.
Right.
Success, in this context, it's only meaningful when it aligns with something you deeply desire.
And for anyone listening who's struggling right now to even identify that dream, the sources give us some surprisingly simple tools.
Yeah, they do.
Ask yourself what made you happy as a child, or what activities you do now that make you feel totally alive, where you just lose all track of time. That simple introspection, it just cuts through all the adult clutter.
And that introspection, it leads directly to the next part, which is risk.
Mm-hmm.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, pursuing a dream means leaving the established track. The material suggests the reason people fail is it's rarely a lack of talent.
It's the fear.
It's an unwillingness to take the calculated risks you need to move forward.
And the fear of failure is less about, say, losing money and more about what other people will think. It's worrying about what they'll say. Precisely. And this is where the psychological insight is so valuable. Successful people recognize that others pay far, far less attention to their failures than they imagine.
That's so true.
Everyone is busy with their own internal drama. You're the protagonist of your life, but everyone else is the protagonist of theirs. You have to trust your own choices.
And stop outsourcing your self-worth to what other people think.
Yeah.
So it reframes failure. It's not this public humiliation. It's essential market research. But let's be clear, we're not talking about recklessness here.
No, absolutely not.
We're talking about calculated risk. How do we define that in, practical terms?
Calculated risk, as it's defined here, means failing small and failing fast. It's about asking, okay, if this experiment fails, how easily can I recover and what specific data will I gain from it?
Okay.
If the potential rewards really outweigh those manageable challenges, then you proceed. It's about minimizing the catastrophic loss while you maximize the learning.
So you can iterate immediately.
Exactly.
And this courage to experiment, it directly fuels the next habit, which is building unshakable confidence. The sources define it pretty simply.
Just trusting yourself and your abilities.
Right. An internal validation system.
And it's so important to clarify, this isn't, loud bravado or needing a round of applause. True confidence is this quiet internal assessment that just says, I have the skills, and even if I face a setback, I can adapt.
So it's confidence that's validated by your own experience, not by what other people say.
Right.
But this is where I find a little friction with the source material. It suggests that even when you don't feel confident, you should act confident. Isn't that just faking it?
Well, that's a great question, and the psychological nuance here is really key. The advice isn't about faking success. It's about using behavioral psychology to sort of rewire your self-perception.
Okay, explain that.
When you adopt the posture and the language of confidence,
Yeah.
speaking clearly, making eye contact, taking up space, you actually trigger hormonal and cognitive changes that reduce anxiety. By convincing others that you're capable, you eventually convince yourself. It's a powerful feedback loop. It builds genuine self-belief from the outside in.
So you don't wait for the feeling,
Yeah.
you use the action to generate the feeling.
You got it.
And for handling negative comments, the advice is simple. Learn from it if you can, but otherwise just accept it as someone's opinion. Don't absorb it.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the first challenge is generating that internal drive, the next one is just surviving the marathon. We assume success is all about brute force, but the sources really emphasize maintenance, sustaining the journey. And the first habit here is taking necessary breaks.
This is so critical, and it's amazing how it's often the first thing people sacrifice. We saw some statistics, high rates of unused paid leave all over the world. It shows this cultural addiction to just constant work.
Right, the workaholics. They might feel productive, but they're suffering from this intense fatigue that leads to weak decisions, a decline in quality.
The laptop analogy they use is perfect.
I thought so too.
A computer runs for hours, but if you don't shut it down, it overheats, slows down, and then it crashes. We're the same.
Skipping those cognitive breaks leads to anxiety, stress, and a measurable drop in your ability to solve complex problems. You just lose perspective.
And the material pushes back really hard on this idea that breaks are a luxury. They're not. They're non-negotiable strategic necessities.
So for immediate implementation, they suggest things like the Pomodoro technique.
Right. For listeners who might not know it, this involves these hyper-focused 25-minute sprints of work.
Followed by a mandatory 5-minute cognitive reset.
Exactly. And the reason this works is that it respects the brain's natural capacity for high focus. By scheduling the break, you prevent that quality decline that always happens when you push too far.
And you lower the mental cost of switching tasks.
And the key rule for any of these breaks, big or small, is separation. You have to completely remove your mind from work worries.
No checking emails on your phone during your 5 minutes.
Absolutely not. And no work messages on weekends or holidays. Successful people get that true rest requires cognitive distance from the stress.
Okay, so moving from physical rest to emotional hygiene, we have to talk about the emotional drag that just halts progress.
Unforgiveness.
Yeah. Emotional baggage is heavy. When you refuse to forgive yourself or someone else, you are trapping yourself in the past. You're just cycling through these energy-draining emotions like anger and bitterness.
And this raises such a vital point. Forgiveness is not a passive act of surrender. It's not saying what happened was okay.
No.
It's an active, strategic decision to reclaim your cognitive bandwidth. Holding on to bitterness just consumes mental resources that you should be allocating toward your future.
You're punishing yourself for someone else's mistake.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's the true freedom in it, isn't it? You're forgiving for your own peace of mind. You acknowledge that it hurt, but you choose not to let that event control your present or sabotage your future.
And the steps to practice this are deeply internal. First, you have to honestly acknowledge the hurt. Don't minimize it.
Right.
Then, you make peace with yourself and accept what happened. Only then can you actually move forward, no longer tied to that past injury.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk resources. Specifically, how successful people manage money and their relationship with possessions. The habit is living within your means.
And not just as a financial discipline, but as a gateway to opportunity. Money provides resources, connections, everything you need to pursue those big dreams we talked about.
Yet so many people struggled here. The sources reference a study showing a really high percentage of earners just spend everything on temporary pleasures.
Because instant gratification is just so much easier than delayed gratification. It's human nature.
So this forces us to redefine wealth. It's not the size of your house or your car.
No, it is having money to spend in the present and the future. True wealth is financial independence.
Which means flexibility and security. The ability to pursue risk without being terrified of losing your salary.
Every successful person is strict about their finances. The action plan is simple. Set financial goals that align with your actual life plans.
Not generic goals.
No. Funding your retirement, securing your children's future, you limit spending to needs, you have an emergency fund, and you avoid debt that's just taken on to signal wealth.
To appear rich.
Exactly. The goal is always to save and invest. Let your money start working for you.
And here's where it gets really interesting. because it connects finance back to that internal confidence we mentioned.
Reducing attachment to possessions.
Yes. So many people fall into that trap of spending money they don't have on things they don't need to impress people they don't even like.
Success cannot be measured by possessions. Happiness certainly can't be bought. And truly successful people, they don't need to boast.
So if you find yourself buying expensive things just to appear wealthy, you're distracted from the real work.
Right. Status signaling is a huge drain on your resources.
So how do you implement this? How do you reduce that material attachment? The advice is basically ruthless clarity.
You need to declutter. First, sort your belongings. What do you truly need and what is just clutter or emotional weight?
Be honest about it.
Be very honest about the burden of accumulation. I mean, the goal isn't necessarily radical minimalism, but just achieving clarity.
Right.
Every single item you own requires energy.
To buy it, store it, maintain it, worry about it.
Exactly. Successful people simplify their environment to simplify their cognitive load. If you feel like your life is cluttered, you have to pause the consumption cycle. Get rid of things that don't serve a clear purpose.
Okay, finally, let's get into external management. How successful people navigate their world and the people in it.
The strategic blend of planning and adaptability.
Right, there's that classic dilemma. Some people prefer rigid planning, others prefer spontaneity.
And successful people know that relying only on one or the other is a major flaw.
The downside of pure planning is frustration when life inevitably changes. The downside of spontaneity is being totally unprepared for a bad situation.
So the successful habit is finding that balance. You set clear, flexible goals. You practice daily planning, but you understand it might change. And, critically, you always have contingency plans.
Backup plans.
This is the real insight here. Planning for the worst-case scenario isn't pessimism, it's just robust preparation.
Right.
You don't need a detailed script, but having a guideline, a general idea of how you'd recover from a setback that guides your current actions. And that preparedness, it frees you up to be spontaneous.
Because you know you have a safety net.
Precisely.
And finally, managing the people around you. Your surroundings have such a profound influence on your mindset.
Which means the strategic habit of saying goodbye, or at least setting hard boundaries, with toxic people.
Yeah. Toxic people are those who are just consistently negative, who drain your energy or who actively undermine you.
And the source material is unequivocal here. It doesn't matter who they are.
A friend who lies, a parent who criticizes, a colleague who tries to sabotage you.
You have to stop making excuses for their behavior.
So the first step is just identification, recognizing the pattern and stopping yourself from normalizing it.
And the second crucial action is learning to say no. If people make you feel guilty for rejecting an invitation or setting a boundary, that feeling is a huge signal. It tells you that relationship is not sustainable for your growth.
And if they're family, people you can't just cut off entirely.
The directive is clear. Limit your interaction, strictly enforce your boundaries, and minimize the time you spend in their negative orbit. Maintaining a positive, supportive environment is essential.
It makes the path to success exponentially clearer.
Wow. This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
It covers so much ground.
From the internal mindset dreams, risk, confidence, to the necessary maintenance breaks and forgiveness, and then the external strategy, financial independence, and managing your environment. Success really is a long journey.
But this raises an important question, doesn't it? If you do all this, if you implement all these habits, what's the ultimate psychological payoff?
It's ensuring a life lived without looking back with sorrow. We so often see people leave this world regretting things they could have easily done.
But we're too scared to try.
Too scared.
Yeah.
Like expressing love or pursuing a passion. Successful people embrace those opportunities. They take chances. They're optimized not just for achievement, but for minimized regret.
That's a powerful idea.
So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought synthesized from all of this. Take the regret test.
Okay.
If you are ever in doubt about taking an action, whether it's asking for that promotion, launching that project you've been delaying, whatever it is, ask yourself this one question. Will I regret letting this opportunity slip by now?
And if the honest answer is yes.
The lesson from this entire deep dive is simple. Take the chance immediately. Stop holding back from what you truly desire to do.